I'm answering your questions today about Jaylen Brown, the player of the week. Jordan Walsh, what's his ceiling? Lots of questions about Joe Mazzulla and Al Horford's regret. It's all right now on the Locked On Celtics podcast.
Beantown, be ever ready. It's the C's. Who else could it be? What they gon' say now? Screaming like JT. Karalis, recap the madness every game, every practice. Primetime Depp and D White on the sideline. Raining J's, how it started, raising banners, how we finished. Locked On Celtics pod, home of the winners. B.
Locked On Celtics podcast right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day. Your team's the Boston Celtics, and I talk about them every Monday through Friday. Plus bonus podcasts when they play in the weekend. We get a lot of bonus podcasts coming up. So you got to subscribe. The show's free. It's available everywhere. It's on YouTube. Get into the comment section. Share your thoughts with me. If you're new to the show, welcome aboard. I'm John Karalis, beat writer for Boston Sports Journal. I've been doing a version of this job for 20 years now. I've been doing this podcast for 10, and I've written a couple of books about the Celtics as well. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to get right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. Let's open up the mailbag. This week is about figuring out who these guys are. Let's start it out with your questions. A mailbag where mailbags can be submitted. The questions can be submitted at johnkaralis.com/mailbag. johnkaralis.com/mailbag to get your questions in. So later on, we'll get to Al Horford. We'll get to Jordan Walsh's ceiling. The second segment is going to be all Joe Mazzulla. Questions about Joe Mazzulla, Coach of the Year discussion, all of that stuff. First of all, before we even get to mailbag questions, I want to shout out Jaylen Brown, who was the Eastern Conference Player of the Week, his fourth Player of the Week. He had some really nice games this week. Started off with 42 points, a season high against the Knicks, 30 against the Lakers, 30 against Toronto. But on top of that, he had 8 rebounds twice. He had 4 assists, 4, 8, and 5 assists. He had a steal in each game. He played extraordinarily well. Just a great week for Jaylen, and a deserved Player of the Week award. He should be, he's been nominated every week. He should be in the running for Player of the Month whenever this month is over. I'm sure he's going to continue this role. And like I said before, Jaylen is having what I consider to be an all-NBA season. And one thing to monitor here, on top of no one cares if you make first, second, or third team. However, there's bragging rights. If you make first team, you get to be like, hey, first team all-NBA is an accomplishment. No one that's an accomplishment. At the end of your career, they're not going to say how many first, second, or third teams you have. If you make it 3, 4, 5 times, they're just going to say, hey, 5-time All-NBA, Jaylen Brown, right? So no one ever really says which team. You have to go back and look. But there is that kind of puff up your chest and be like, damn right, first team, right? And he has a chance to make that. He has a chance to make that on his merits. It's too early to make that determination yet, but already got Giannis Antetokounmpo out for an extended amount of time. He might be out of the running. The 65-game threshold, he might be out of the running. There might be other guys that could be out of the running, and each guy that doesn't qualify now makes it that much more likely that Jaylen can be a first-team All-NBA guy. So not that you need – I honestly, I don't even know if he needs guys to drop off. But, hey, it's also a thing that's happening. So let's throw that little caveat into the mix. There are going to be guys who drop off. As long as Jaylen stays healthy and plays 65, then we're looking at potential first-team All-NBA season out of him, which brings me to the first mailbag question, which comes from Jude, who asks, what's more likely? Jaylen finishing the season shooting upwards of 50% from the field or averaging more than 5 assists per game? Well, let's look at the stats right now. He is shooting 49.6% from the field, and he's averaging 4.9 assists per game. So he's right there. You can round up and say he's right there. So what is more likely? Well, if you look at his career, I think the 50% shooting, he's never actually shot 50%, but he's also never actually gotten to 5 assists. He's gotten close a couple of seasons ago to get to 49.9. So basically 50, but technically not actually 50. He's gotten close a couple of times. The 49.6 gets him into that range. It's hard to shoot 50%. It's just hard. For a wing to shoot 50%, you're asking a lot. So I'm going to say that that's less likely than the 5 assists per game, because right now he's at 4.9. On top of that, you have a couple of elements here that will, I think, help him get to the above 5. In fact, let me just check his splits real quick, because in December so far, he's averaging 5.7. In November, in 14 November games, he averaged 5.1. In October, in 6 games, he averaged 4.2. So since November, he's averaging over 5. So the two elements here that make 5, you know what? I'll even say maybe 6 the rest of the way. It's the attention paid on him because of the shooting, because he's the scoring. Teams might just say, look, man, we're not buying Jordan Walsh. We're not buying Josh Minot. We're not buying, some of these other guys that are actually making shots. We're going to be a little bit more aggressive in taking the ball out of Jaylen's hands. We can't be sitting there watching him drop 30 every single night. So he's going to, I think, moving forward, be passing the ball more and shooting the ball just a little bit less. And when I say shooting the ball less, he's taking 21.6 shots per game. Maybe that drops to 20 or 19 point something. So I'm only talking about maybe 2 shots per game less than what he's doing, what he's taking. But also it's going to be passing more. And so I think that's going to lead to more opportunities for assists. That's one element. The second element is Derrick White is shooting a lot better. Payton Pritchard is shooting a lot better. Those are guys that Jaylen passes to, like especially Derrick. Like he passes to those guys on the wings, and his assists are going to be up just because those guys make shots. That's the thing with the assist. You need guys to make shots to get your assists. And I think one of the reasons why Jaylen had 4.2 assists in October and 5.1 in November and 5.7 in December. Guys are making shots. I don't think he's making a ton more passes. Although I will say there was that stretch where he was making the right play. Oh, God, I'm going to have to go back and look at these games. But it was against Cleveland, where he let Payton cook at the end, and against New York, that win where he gave it up to Jordan a couple of times on the rolls. He's showing the willingness to pass out of even the clutch situations, which is important. So that's a little bit of a long-winded answer, but I wanted to get that explanation out. Why will Jaylen not shoot 50%, or it's more likely that he's going to get 5 assists per game than shooting? Okay, so the phrasing is upwards of 50%. So that will, 49% is still upwards of 50. So he can maintain some of that. I just think that the shooting will level off a little bit. He's doing a lot of work. He's going to get a little tired. I think he's due for just a couple of rough shooting nights, which is just natural, but it's going to keep his percentage down a little bit. He'll probably still finish around 48, 49%. Which is, right about where he is now. I expect a little bit of a dip, but not too much of a dip. But I definitely expect the assists to go up. 5.7 assists so far in a few December games. That's great. I expect it to kind of stay there, maybe even go up. I wouldn't be surprised if he averaged 6 or something. Maybe, I don't know. Who knows? Maybe more moving forward. Derrick hitting shots, Payton hitting shots. I don't know about Jordan and Josh. I've talked about this. There's a little bit of maybe playing above their heads a little bit, but for now they're hitting shots. But I think as other guys start to hit shots, and like Neemias Queta, who's playing a lot better. He's even improving as the season goes along. If he finishes better, as Jaylen drives, a lot of plays where they start Nimi in the dunker spot, like doing that a little bit more. It's not just pick and rolls with Nimi. It's starting him in the dunker spot and having him kind of relocate along the baseline. Some of those dump offs right now aren't being finished necessarily. A couple of them are being, he's being fouled and going to the line. Those can turn into assists. If Nimi can improve a little bit, you get 1 or 2 more finishes from him. Now we're talking about 6, 7 assists instead of 5 or 6. I didn't mean to say 6, 7. Please put your hands down. Please stop. 6 or 7 assists for Jaylen Brown. All right, this is time to move on. All about Joe Mazzulla next. It's all about Joe Mazzulla, the coaching clinic, coach of the year talk, his relationship with other coaches. It's all coming up next. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. NFL Sundays move fast. One big play and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds, every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Some of these games have been really crazy, and the swings are happening all the time. Live betting, it's best when the game does start to shift, receiver gets hot, defense tightens up, or the momentum flips after a turnover. FanDuel lets you jump into the moment. You got player props that update instantly. Live spreads do the same. Money lines do the same. You can bet on things like the Nets touchdown score, drive results, totals. So check it out. Go to FanDuel.com and get right into the middle of the action this season. Place your live NFL bets all season long. Set your limits. When you log in, they'll ask you to set a budget. Please, please, please do that. So when you hit a limit, they'll stop you because sometimes you just go cold. It happens. You can stop. It's called gambling responsibly. Whatever you can afford to lose, that's what you set. And then you can come back later and just pick it up again. FanDuel, the game moves fast. So can you. Thank you for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day and making the Locked On Podcast Network the #1 sports podcast network. Now take it up a level and go ad-free. We're starting this new Everydayer Club. The Everydayer Club gives you Locked On Celtics with no interruptions, members-only Discord access, and more for just $5 a month or $50 a year. Just go to lockedonceltics.supercast.com, lockedonceltics.supercast.com, and check the link in the show notes to learn more. Mailbag episode continues. Mailbag questions can go to johnkaralis.com/mailbag, johnkaralis.com/mailbag to get those in. This is all about Joe Mazzulla. We start with Ted. We are witnessing a coaching clinic with this year's Celtics. During timeouts and free throws, Joe's talking and coaching up Ugo, Walsh, Keita. After successful plays, he pulled D. White after a lazy pass the other night. Sam Cassell is allowed to take over the huddle at times. This is good stuff. Do you see a Spoelstra-like future for Mazzulla here? Look, Spo is, obviously a high-level coach, one of the most respected, going to be a Hall of Famer. So I will respectfully hesitate to say, yes, absolutely, there's a Spoelstra-like future. But also, man, can't you see those parallels? Spo took over the Miami Heat. They were kind of like bad, and then all of a sudden they made the move to get LeBron. Suddenly, it's LeBron, it's Wade, it's Bosh, and tons of conversation. Spo's not the right guy. He might be a good coach someday, but not right now. You need a seasoned voice and blah, blah, blah. And you heard so many similar things when it came to Joe Mazzulla. And no one really looked at the content, the character of Joe Mazzulla, what he was trying to say, what he was trying to teach. And he has certainly grown and improved. No one expected him to be a finished product right away, but I remember when he took the job, and I remember what he was saying at the beginning. It is very similar, but I kind of understood. I just felt like I understood everything he was trying to do. He didn't just think the game the same way. He wasn't regurgitating what other people were saying. Even with the timeouts, the whole thing in his first season with not calling timeouts, I understood. Now, there were times where he should have, no doubt. And I said so when it was happening. But also, I do understand the thought process behind it. And that's my big thing. If the thought process is good, and this is something that Joe says, if your process, if the way you're thinking and processing things is correct, it's okay if you make mistakes along the way because you're trying to get to a solution. And only through sometimes trial and error, failure is a great teacher. Scientists failure sometimes as much as they love success because failure teaches you what doesn't work. And so you don't do that again. Failure is a positive result. And so Joe Mazzulla failing early did help him improve. And you see the timeouts. Now, no one talks about the timeouts anymore because he calls them and he understands a little bit better about sometimes you just need to call them. You need to stop the runs. Sometimes he lets them through, but he still has improved. And he will continue to improve, right? He's already won a championship. He's starting a kind of like a new path with this group. The in-game teaching, like Ted mentioned, I think it's incredible. What Josh said the other day, if you missed it, go back a couple of podcasts when he talked about how much he loves Joe Mazzulla. In fact, if you're on YouTube, I have a separate segment talking about Joe and Josh. Like, go check that out. It's 4 minutes. I think it tells the whole story. So can I see a Spoelstra-like future for Joe? Yeah, why not? Why not? Because what Spo has accomplished is through experience and trial and error and just an insane dedication to the game. And that's what Joe has. He has a love and dedication for the game and just insane competitiveness. So you hesitate to say, do you see a Spoelstra-like future? It's like saying, like, do you see a Larry Bird-like future for a player? Like, I don't know. It's hard to say that, but I can see Joe being like, can Joe get to the Hall of Fame as a coach? Absolutely. He's already won a championship, right? You win another 2 or 3 and he's young enough where he has a long time to get to. Like, you win 2 or 3 more, you're up there 3, 4 championships, of course. So yes, he has a long path ahead of him and a lot of years left with good, great, elite players, which you kind of need. So, and this season, I'll end with this. Why the Spoelstra thing is at least worth the consideration is this is the season of the expectations were low, but wow, they're exceeding expectations. If they continue to do that and you have, okay, there's a championship a couple seasons ago. This was supposed to be a gap year. If the Celtics are, a 3 or 4 seed somehow heading into the playoffs, then all of a sudden it's like, well, wait a second. They were not supposed to be good. And a lot of people who are like, I didn't expect them to be any good at all. Well, how did they become good with all of these players? Must be the coaching. And that's how the conversations start to change, which gets us to Brad's question. If they stay at the top of the East this year, do you think Joe could potentially be in the running for Coach of the Year? I think these things are a season behind. They always are. But Joe is certainly it's entirely possible that if they finish 3rd or 4th, if they somehow stay up around here, that people you'll have to consider Joe in that mix. Now, you could also say, like, well, what if the Toronto Raptors stay, in the top 3, or top 4, like they're a team that wasn't really considered. What if the, San Antonio Spurs, like these teams with lower expectations, right? The Orlando Magic, if they find a way to the top of the East, let's just say the Orlando Magic find a way to the top of the East, and it's going to be tough with Franz Wagner out. Thankfully, that was only a high ankle sprain, But if Paolo Banchero is easing his way back in to the lineup and he's adjusting his game, then people go like, well, there's the coaching right there. You got Paolo Banchero to change how he plays to fit more into what the Orlando Magic need, and he would be in consideration there. Mosley would be. So coach of the year is always which team has exceeded expectations the most. So, hey, look, if the Celtics are still here, if the Celtics win 50 games, I would have a hard time saying that Joe Mazzulla shouldn't get consideration. He definitely should. And then we'll wrap this segment up with Seth, who says, what's Joe's relationship with other coaches around the league? How is he viewed among other coaches? I mean, I haven't talked to any other coaches like privately about him, but every time other coaches come into town and, they talk to us before the game, they talk glowingly about Joe. He seems to have a good relationship with them. He, not only other coaches around the league, but other coaches around town. I think he has a real strong respect for the job. He understands what the job, the downfalls of the job, the pitfalls of the job, and all of that. And I think all of these coaches have a healthy respect for one another. And I think all these coaches understand how hard it is to win a championship. So even though some people might be like, still kind of like Joe Mazzulla sucks, coaches know that winning a championship is hard no matter what. So having won it all and being a little crazy and connecting with your team, I think he has a very high respect level around the league. All right, we'll come back. We're going to talk about Jordan Walsh's ceiling. We'll talk about Derrick White and Payton Pritchard as all-stars and Al Horford's regret. We're going to talk about it all when we come back. Today's show is brought to you by Mint Mobile. There's no reason to let big wireless drain your wallet, especially during the holidays. Right now, Mint Mobile is running their best deal of the year. All of their unlimited plans are 50% off. That means you can lock in 3, 6, or even 12 months of unlimited premium wireless for just $15 a month. It's the easiest way to take your overpriced phone bill and give it the full Scrooge treatment. And what makes this even better is how simple Mint makes it to switch. No contracts, no nonsense, just real savings, real quality service. Switching to Mint just lets you keep your same coverage and for a lower price. Setup only takes a few minutes. You can bring your own phone number and switch without any issues. Service is fast, super reliable, and it feels good knowing that you're not overpaying just to stay connected. Turn your expensive wireless present into a huge wireless savings future by switching to Mint. Shop Mint Mobile unlimited plans at mintmobile.com/LockedOnNBA. That's mintmobile.com/LockedOnNBA. It's a limited time offer. Upfront payments of $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12 months. Plan required. $15 per month equivalent. Taxes and fees. Initial plan term only. Greater than 35 gigabytes may slow when the network is busy. Capable device required. Availability, speed, and coverage varies. See mintmobile.com. Thank you for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. Go check out Locked On NBA Game Night. Every game, every night, 7 days a week. I host on Wednesdays. It will be with Jake Madison. Next week, this week, I'll be joined by Danny Cunningham of Locked On Cavs. We'll be covering two NBA Cup games tomorrow night. Every game, every night on Locked On NBA Game Night. Subscribe wherever you found this podcast. Let's wrap up the mailbag. Mailbag questions again. Go to johnkaralis.com/mailbag. And we roll on with Land, who says, given Walsh's current evolution, how high do you think his ceiling is as a defensive stopper? Do you think he can hit Shane Battier levels? Shane Battier. Nice pull. Also, Shane Battier and I could be cousins, it looks like, I think. A little Shane Battier. We'll do a side-by-side. Maybe. Yeah, of course. Of course he could. Of course he could. Like, Jordan, this is so funny. For a guy who started this season being like, I don't know about Jordan Walsh anymore, to, yeah, he could be Shane Battier. Why not? He is a super impressive, capable defender. If he continues at this path, he's only 21. the fact that he's playing so well, I wasn't kidding when I was saying he was the best player on the floor in the first 5 minutes of that game in Toronto. Like, that was the best basketball I've seen Jordan play. And that's after the finish of the Knicks game, where I was like, damn, Jordan is closing this game out. He is incredible. I joked on Twitter that he made a deal with the devil. And of course, some people took it too seriously. I'm just highlighting that. How do you go from out of the rotation to this good, this fast? And it's more than just opportunity. He's obviously worked hard. It's just certain things just clicked all of a sudden. So yeah, can he be Shane Battier? Like, why not? He's big. He's got the super long wingspan. He's figured out how to poke the ball free. You know how hard it is to check a guy straight up and then poke the ball away and all of a sudden just start a one-man fast break. That is incredible. I just do not know how he is, how he's gotten so good so fast. Now, he does have other things, as Land mentions as he continues the question about throwing bad passes, and like he does, like, he has a lot of room to grow. So he can be a lot better when he's handling the ball. At some point, as Walsh starts to develop, we hope, better instincts with the ball, better understanding, because right now it's just poke the ball free, run, and can I get to the end of the floor faster than everybody else? Oh no, I can't. All right, now what do I do? And I think just being a little bit more under control there will be a next step in his evolution. Playing too fast has been his problem from the beginning, and he has kind of licked that. But getting out to transition is almost like someone he's like falling off the wagon a little bit. It's like, okay, he's been so addicted to playing way too fast his whole life, and now he's got it under control, but pokes the ball free, and he's out there in the open floor, but there are defenders around here like, oh, I'm going to go too fast. I love this. I love playing too fast. He's got to control that a little bit. And once he gets to that a little bit more under control, which it's not too bad. It really is not too bad, but he still has to get a little bit more under control. He'll be much better on the break as a facilitator. I don't think he really ever thought about that. But when you're poking the ball free as much as he is, all of a sudden now you have to start learning some point guard skills. Like, Jordan needs to start working with Sam Cassell, and he needs to start working a little bit more with Payton, and he needs to start working more with Derrick about, okay, when I'm in the open floor and it's a 3-on-2 or a 3-on-1, what are the tricks? What do I need to do? How do I need to, because all of a sudden you're a point guard, and that's not something he ever expected to be. So Jordan has been great as a defender. Jordan is a wing player, but Jordan is suddenly a point guard when he pokes the ball free. And that's going to be like the next thing he has to master. And if he gets that, then he hits another level. And at this age, it's good to have these levels to reach. And that's where he has to go. Brian asks, will Derrick White be an all-star this year? Do you think that Payton Pritchard could be an all-star in the future? I think no. Could be is so open. Like, could he be? Maybe. I don't think these guys are playing at an all-star level this year, but also it kind of depends on some other guys. Like, they could be injury replacements. I also think the US versus the world format is potentially going to hurt them, because if there's an imbalance between US and world players, this is why I don't like necessarily a US versus the world format, but they're doing the round robin multiple team thing. So that's okay. I think you can get like 6 or 7 good international all-stars together. But if a couple of guys get hurt and you start having to reach too deep, then you're like Dylan Brooks is going to make it over Derrick White, because Dylan's having a pretty good season and he's Canadian and you need somebody for the world team, but Derrick White's a better player. and he would normally deserve. So there are little things like that I think will prevent it. So I don't think the Celtics are getting 2 All-Stars this year. I think it's going to be Jaylen, and then they're going to go elsewhere. But these, at their best, Derrick and Payton are certainly in the discussion. Could they be? Yeah, they could be. I doubt, if I had to put money on whether they will or won't make an all-star team in their careers, I'm going to bet on they won't. And some of it is unfortunate circumstances, like this year, the slow start. He's going to have to, Derrick and Payton are going to really have to pick it up shooting wise. And they're starting to, but they're going to have to really hit another level. They're going to have to start putting together some 25 to 30 point games themselves pretty consistently to make it this year. And if they don't, then, Jayson's coming back next year. It's unfortunate, but unless you're, a 70-win team or on pace to be a 70-win team, you're not going to get more than 2 All-Stars. And then you get the weird format stuff. Like that stuff is going to be, that's going to work against them too. Let's wrap this up here with questions about Al Horford, where Ari says, is there any way the salary gods would allow a trade to bring back Al Horford? And I'm going to say, no, I don't believe so, because I don't think the Warriors are going to, I don't think they're going to move him. I know that he's kind of struggled a little bit. I think the Warriors have struggled a little bit. I think they're kind of in this. They're going to make their run and whatever. So not this year. They're not going to reacquire him this year. Could he come back next year? Could he opt out, come back to Boston on a minimum? That's possible. And I wouldn't be surprised. I really honestly wouldn't be surprised. And this folds in Tanner's question. Do you think he's regretting his decision to go join the Warriors after comparing both team starts and the difficulty of the West? Seems like it was a bad move for him. And I will agree. It does seem like it was a bad move for him. The Warriors are 13-12 and 8th in the West. The Celtics are 15-9 and 3rd in the East. And you can't help but look at it. Like he's got to look at the Celtics and say, oh man, that would have been a lot of fun. Imagine Al Horford as your backup center. And I know he struggles a little bit over in Golden State, and he's been hurt. And I've said from the beginning, I tried to tell Warriors fans, don't expect anything from him at the beginning of the regular season. He is going to pace himself. He will get up for some big games. He will show some things, but he's going to pace himself and try to make a run in the playoffs. But I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if he is having like another pang of like, why did I leave again? I didn't learn the first time. I got to come back. But I will also say that his son is old enough to see that you have to make decisions. This is a business. His son is, from what I hear, really good at basketball and has a path potentially to the NBA. Think about it. Al Horford's father played in the NBA. Al plays in the NBA. He's a Hall of Famer. And now his son, the lineage is there. And the one thing we have to take into account is Ian is watching his dad, and his dad has always valued himself. And the Warriors were paying him more. And they valued him higher than the Celtics did. Now, the Celtics were in second apron hell and had to make decisions, and that was a decision they just couldn't make the same way. Even though they probably wanted to, they couldn't make that same decision. And so circumstances were what they were. Ian, I think, and I haven't talked to Al about this or anybody around him, I'm just guessing. But knowing Al, I feel good about this. Just felt like he had to make a decision to show Ian at that point, if you ever make it to the league, you have to value yourself because this is a business. And would we like to stay in Boston? Yes. But you can't make emotional decisions because teams will cut you. They will trade you and they will make their business decisions. So you have to make your business decisions. So we have to learn how to make a move because that's what's best for you and your family and your career and your finances. This is, after all, a job. And I think as much as anything, that lesson for his son was as important as where he finishes his career. And would he have liked to stay in Boston? I'm sure he would have. But when this opportunity came up and he got a chance to show his son, this is how we conduct business in the NBA. I think that's a valuable lesson. And you know what? I respect it, man. I respect it. And if that is true, you almost get Al sacrificing something. Sacrificing like me, he moved across the country to teach his son a very important lesson and show him something important. And so I respect that decision. And does he personally, privately, maybe wish he stayed in Boston? Maybe. Maybe he'll come back if he's got one more season left in him. We'll see, which would be amazing. I mean, Al leaving, coming back, winning a championship, leaving, coming back, maybe win a second championship. Boy, that would be something. Again, mailbag questions come in at johnkaralis.com/mailbag. Thank you for submitting your questions. We'll get back to discussing these guys in greater detail tomorrow, figuring out who are these guys, how are we moving forward, what's going on with this team, some interesting stuff about Jayson Tatum, what he's posting on his social media, and what Brian Scalabrine has been saying about January. We'll talk about all of that tomorrow. So make sure you're subscribed, watch the show, continue to watch the show on YouTube. If you want to listen to the show, absolutely, please do that. You can also join our Everydayers Club. It's new. It's $5 a month, and you just got to go to LockedOnCeltics.supercast.com to sign up. So thank you for doing that. Thank you for being making this your first listen. Thank you for being an everydayer. Now I would love it if you shared the podcast and told everybody they should be listening to and watching the Locked On Celtics podcast here in the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.